Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, the World Series of Board Gaming 2024 is in Las Vegas from September 22nd through 26th, and they're giving away over $200,000 of cash and prizes, including Super Bowl style rings to the winners. Now later in this video, I'll give you a code to get $25 off your entry, but there are 16 games that will be played there, so today I'm ranking them from 16 to 1, so here we go. Number 16 for me is Great Western Trail. This is sort of a heavier, longer Euro game that uses some board mechanisms, but also deck building as the main mechanism there. I like the theme of the game, and I know it's extremely popular. I'm not a huge deck building fan. It's not one of the mechanisms I like as my top, say, 10 mechanisms in games. So this one didn't really reach me as much as it did other people. This game is hugely popular, so much so that there's been multiple different standalone versions of this. There's been 3 of them that have come out, this and 2 others. They've been redone with new artwork and new graphic design and some updates. It's a game that a lot of people really love, but because of the amount of, it's not an easy teach. It uses deck building. I do love going around and coming around multiple times, going, through the United States with your cattle, and I like some of those decisions, but because of the length of it, the difficultness of the teach, and just because it uses deck building, it's not quite that high. In fact, it's the lowest one on my list. Next one is 15, Dune Imperium, another one that is hugely popular. I think at the time of making this video, this is ranked number 6 overall on Board Game Geek. That's ridiculously high. That's like crazy popular. The reason why this isn't higher is I'm not a huge fan of Dune. I don't tend to watch a lot of TV or movies. Usually in my free times, if I'm not playing games, I am doing athletic sports, or I am playing music or listening to music. So I don't do a lot of that. So I'm not really tuned in. The theme didn't do anything for me. And I did like that this was sort of worker placement, but it also had deck building along with it. Now, around the same time that this game came out, another game came out that had deck building and worker placement. And in fact, that is a game that you'll hear about later. But this one, again, a lot of people love it. Economically and resource-wise, it was a little tight for my regard. I felt like you were kind of playing in a straitjacket a little bit. I did like the interactions of, the combats and things that you do going against the opponents for points. That part was fun, but the theme didn't draw me in. I'm not huge on deck building, and the economy was really tight. So for me, it wasn't higher for that reason. 14 is Brass of Birmingham. Now this was the Brass, the original Brass, which is Lancashire, is still the number 1 game on Board Game Geek at the time of filming this. And Brass Birmingham was sort of a newer version of that. They added a little bit of things. They added beer for a resource and a few different. They sort of redeveloped it a little bit into a slightly different game. And this one is very popular as well. The component quality in this was great. The art is great. Brass is one of those economic route building games that I do enjoy because everything that you do affects everybody else, and the cost of things and where you can build and blocking people off, and I like that aspect. But much like Great Western Trail, for me, the longer a game is, the more it really has to hit me in order for me to be willing to get it out, set it up, teach it, because I'm always the one teaching it. This has a decent amount of rules with it, right? Teaching it and playing it, as I get older, again, the longer the game, the better it has to be for me. Also, Brass, recently a game came out called Nucleum that was sort of a cross between Brass and Barrage, and it gives me some of the network building and economic and interactions with other players in a game that I enjoyed more. So Brass Birmingham is number 14 for me. Number 13 is Terraforming Mars, sort of an older game that's still very popular, has 1 million expansions out there. There was a Terraforming Mars, the card game spin-off that came out. There's a dice game now that was on Kickstarter. This is a tableau builder in space, and I like this one because they're always got tough decisions where cards that you're getting, you've got to decide when to use them. Which ones do you keep? Do you keep this one for later, even though you'll never be able to afford it or never really be able to take advantage of it later? It's sort of clogging your hand, it's costing you money. Or do you get rid of it for money or other things and focus on now? So there's a lot of focusing on now, focusing on later. The card play is great. The economics of what you're doing is great. Building on the board a little bit is great. I like the game, but again, it is a very long game and a tough teach. So I like it, but it doesn't come out as often as I would like because of that. Number 12 is Ra. Reiner Knizia is one of my favorite designers. This is a lot of people think this is his best game. For me, there's plenty of games that he's built that I like a lot better. But Ra is especially with the newest 25th Century Games edition, the new, they redid it, they treated it right. The game has awesome components now. It is a pretty simple auction game that has some interesting aspects and interaction with people. Is when the round's going to end and everyone's chanting Ra, 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 and waiting for someone to pull out the last tile that's going to end the round, stuff like that. It does have some fun and unique plays with it, but the reason why it's not higher in this list is because I've had this game go over well, I've had it go over just okay, and I've had it go over just meh. And a lot of it depends on the order and the way that things come out of the bag. So for me, this one isn't as consistent as some of the other ones, and the reason why it's not higher. Number 11 is Ark Nova. Hugely popular. I love the theme of this. It's building your own zoos, and you're doing it on your own tableau, and you're making conservation efforts to score points, and all the cards sort of they interact with each other. And this game it's heavy, it's long. 4-player game, you're looking at probably 3 hours, right? A lot of setup, a lot of teach. Again, the theme here, the longer the game is, the better it has to be. This game is really good, but it also is very long and very hard. There's a decent amount of teaching effort into it as well, and a lot of setup. So this one doesn't come out as much as some others, but I do enjoy the game. If you ask me to play it, yes, but it'd have to be pretty much like the game of the day for me. But Ark Nova, I really like it. Most people like it more than me, but it's a tad too long. I wish they'd come out with a shorter, more streamlined version of it. That's number 11.
Number 10.
Number 10 for me is Earth. Again, another tableau builder. Sort of has some similarities to games like Ark Nova and Terraforming Mars that I mentioned before, but this one is shorter, right? It's about an hour long, right? And so the teach is, it's got a little bit going on, but this one's cool because I love the art, I love the theme, I like the spatial aspect of you building up your tableau. So in some of these other tableau builders, you're just playing cards and they're comboing. This one, the way that they combo can be because of the way it is. Is it adjacent to something? Is it diagonal to something? Is it in the corner? Is it in the bottom? So a lot of things will combo based upon where you place this in your grid, giving another aspect to the game. Also in this game, I like the follow mechanism that's used in many games, but it works well here, where somebody picks an action, they get a good, the best version of that action, but everybody else gets to do a lesser version of that action. So by the time it's your turn again, you've done other things, and you're comboing things together, not on your turn, but not only on your turn, but on everyone's turn as well. The reason why Earth is number 10.
Number 9.
Number 9 for me is Wingspan. This one still is very good. Every time I play this game, I always say, geez, I forgot how good this game is. I think it's an excellent game. It's really the game that started the whole nature craze in board gaming, because it proved that you didn't have to be a space game, a zombie game, a Viking game, to make humongous sales, right? And so everyone else like, well, I guess if Wingspan can do it, I can do it too. But the game is good. Again, another tableau builder card game. Takes about an hour to play. Sort of my sweet spot there. Amazing art. All these different birds are going to give you different abilities, and you're trying to sort of combo those together. The game is really good. Some beautiful eggs. You're rolling dice into a big bird tree. It's a resource management tableau builder, and the goals are going to change each round. And another reason why I like this is there's lots of expansions for it, and specifically, most recently, the 2-player expansion that came out. I think it was Australia. I forget the name of it. Sorry, but there's a 2-player expansion that came out. Asia. No, I think it was Wingspan Asia. Two-player version, which really changes the 2-player experience, where you're also dealing with an abstract component of that as well. So Wingspan is number 9.
Number 8.
My next one is Lost Ruins of Arnak. Now, earlier when talking about Dune Imperium, I mentioned that there was another game that came out that year that used worker placement and deck building, and this is it, Lost Ruins of Arnak. I really enjoy this game. I like the theme. I like the aspect of it. At the beginning of the game, it feels like you're never going to get anything done because your turns are sort of short. There's only so much you can do, but as the game goes on, you're able to do more and more on your turns. and you're going exploring further, and you're defeating the monsters, and you're going down the exploration track, and you're doing all these things, and you're using these artifacts, and you're comboing together all these items and such. And you will have these ginormous, huge turns. Well, I do this, which, whoa, that allows me to do this, which allows me to do this, which allows me to do that, and then I will do that. And you just have these huge turns that are very satisfying towards the end of the game that you don't even have an imagination that you could do at the beginning of the game. And that is the reason why Lost Ruins of Arnak is number 8. And yes, I don't love deck building as much, but in this game, it's more worker placement and less deck building, I feel like, but great game nonetheless. And especially some of the cards you buy go right on top of your pile. So that speeds up the deck building as well.
Number 7.
Number 7 is a new one for here. It's Heat Pedal to the Metal, hugely popular racing game from Days of Wonder. This is a fun racing game where you're not using dice. It's all about hand management, where you're playing cards to move your card, but as you're going through corners, you've got to decide how fast or slow to move through those, because if you move too fast, you're getting heat, which essentially is clogging up your deck. This is also sort of a deck building a little bit, but more hand management, whereas you're drawing cards. If you've done too much, speeding around the corners and you got too much heat in your hands, the only way to get rid of those cards, they're clogging your deck, right? So as you get more and more of that, you have less and less decisions as you're moving, and so it's going to make it harder for you to move around. An interesting way of getting rid of those. So it's a really unique way of making it feel like you're paying for the consequences of going fast with the heat. It's a fun racing game. It's got multiple boards. An expansion just came out for this recently. And also the idea of where you can build your own upgrades and have customized cars, and you can do championship series and things like that. Heat Pedal to the Metal, really good one.
Number 6.
My next one is a really popular game that was, I believe it won the Spiel des Jahres, Cascadia. This is a sort of a tableau builder, a tile drafting game where you're taking tiles, building your own tableau. But in addition to those tiles, you're also grabbing animals that are mated with those tiles, and you're trying to figure out where to place the terrain tile and where to place that animal. And each of the animals is not only going to score differently from each other, but from game to game, the same animal will be scoring differently. So you've got a lot of variability of how things will score, whether it's the bear or the deer or the eagles or the hawks, I guess. And it's really interesting because not only are you drafting tiles, but you're also caring what other people are doing in their terrain, because if you have the largest sort of contiguous grouping of certain terrain tiles more than other people, you'll get more points. So you're sort of paying attention to what other people are doing for interaction. But it's a quick teach, 45-minute game, but a lot of depth there at Cascadia.
Number 5.
Number 5 for me is Castles of Burgundy, even more specifically the special edition that just came out in recent years. Beautiful production, beautiful art. The older versions of Castles of Burgundy looked like garbage. I mean, they're awful. It looks like someone threw up on the board, basically, is what the old version of Castles of Burgundy looked like. And then there was a better version that had come out like 5 years ago that I had gotten, which was nice. It was like the 20th anniversary of Aliyah, I think it was. That version was nicer, but this next version really makes this game. The game is amazing. This is sort of a dice worker placement game where you're rolling dice and you're placing them on a board to do some special actions, but then you're building up your own tableau as to where you're going and where you're building, and all the tile types have you do different actions and different things. The game itself with the dice mitigation is excellent. It's an older game from Stefan Feld, but again, this new version with the amazing components and the art, and everything's a little bigger and a little easier to see, and finally the game got its justice, is looking as good as it plays. But if you like worker placement, you like dice games and ways to mitigate those dice, man, Castles of Burgundy is one of the best out there for this.
Number 4.
Number 4 is Splendor, a game that did not win the Spiel des Jahres, but everyone thought it was going to that year. This is a really excellent sort of tense set collection contract fulfillment game where you got these really nice poker chips, and you're sort of drafting those, or you're taking those. There's a limited supply, so you're kind of stopping other players from getting them if you're taking too many of them. And you're holding these, and you're waiting to find the right time to get those, to turn them in, and then use that as an engine. This is a sort of a classic engine building game where you're getting cards, you're building up, it's allowing you to do more and more and more. It's a really mean game where you can reserve a card that you think someone's about to get, hold it in your hand, and fulfill that one later, and it's a race. So this game is a very cutthroat, even though it's sort of family level style of weight and length. The game's fantastic. It's tense from turn one. The components are great, the art's nice, and the engine building is just so nice as you feel like you're getting more and more done. It's a very clean game with no fat on it. That's splendor.
Number 3.
Number 3 for me is a classic game from one of my favorite, one of the best game designers ever, if not, and that is the late great Sid Sackson. This is his magnum opus, Acquire. It's a sort of an economic game where you're drawing tiles and then you're placing them onto a board. It's a grid where you're building up hotel chains. And with these hotel chains, you're buying stocks in them. So you're manipulating how valuable something is by making it bigger. So you're trying to get in while it's smaller, build it up, make some money. But the great part about this game is you're always tough decisions between short-term cash and long-term points, which is cash. Because you need cash to be able to buy into the companies that you think are going to be the biggest ones at the end of the game, but you'll run out of money. So in the meantime, you've got to find the right tactical ways to build the right things, to purposely merge companies that you have some things in to sell that stock or trade it into the company you think is going to be bigger. Very simple game. Play a tile, try to merge things together at the right time, deciding which stocks to buy, which ones to sell, which ones to get into. There's a lot of interactions with other players. There is some randomness of the tiles, which can be a little bit there. And the game does overstay its welcome a little bit, where you can know you're out of it halfway through. You know you're not going to be the winner. But this game is a classic. It's so good. Acquire from Sid Sackson.
Number 2.
Number 2 for me is Azul. Now this is a game that's hugely popular, destroyed at the Spiel des Jahres winner. And this was a game when it first came out, I rated it a 7. I'm like, it's good. But the hype was so high for this game at that point before I played it. I was like, really? This is what everyone's going absolutely bonkers for? It's fine, I like it. Well, over the course of the years, they've come out with multiple versions of Azul. I think there's 4 different versions now, 5, 6 if you include the giant and the travel version, but 4 different, completely different games that are based on Azul. But even this original Azul, as I've played it over and over, and as I've learned to like and maybe not like some of the other ones, I keep coming back to this original one because it is very clean, it is beautiful. And it is the tile drafting game where you're drafting tiles to place them on your boards in a specific way, and it is a puzzle, and it's a tense puzzle that can be pretty mean because you can purposely take something that's not great for you to hose the person next to you because they're going to end up having to take a bunch of tiles that they can't fit on their board, and it's going to be a ton of negative points, and there's a lot of that going on in this game. So it can be a little mean for families, but it's lighter, but there's a lot to think about. There's a lot of depth here. And I gotta say, over the years, I like this game more and more the more I've played it. I think I've logged 30 something plays on this now. And again, the more and more I play it, the more and more I like it. And that's why it is this high, because it just keeps getting better with time, and that's a sign of a great game.
Number 1.
Before we get to the moment you've been waiting for, I want to let you know of an upcoming opportunity to win money while gaming. The World Series of Board Gaming is in Las Vegas from September 22nd to 26th, and they're giving away over $200,000 of cash and prizes, including Super Bowl-style rings, to the winners. Now, there are 16 different games available to play, like Ticket to Ride, Heat Pedal to the Metal, Earth, Brass Birmingham, and more. Now you can click the link below to learn more details of how it works and to receive $25 off your entry using the promo code GameBoyGeek. My number 1 here is one of my favorite games of all time. It's in my top 10 of all time. It was my number 1 game to start a collection with in that top 15 video. It is a Ticket to Ride from designer Alan Moon and publisher Days of Wonder. To me, this game is timeless. It came out, 20 years ago? To this year's its 20th anniversary, and it still not only holds up to all the newest, modernist games, but it still exceeds. It's amazing. It's simple. It's engaging. You're basically playing a classic game of rummy, like back in the day with cards, and you're set collecting cards, but then you're playing those cards to be able to place trains out on the board to try to sometimes block other people, but sometimes to find the right route and the right most efficient route to get to the secret goals you have, like getting from Seattle to New York, for example. The game is fantastic because it's pretty easy to teach for even new people that haven't played games. You can play this game super casually with new sort of people that aren't into gaming. Mass market, it's in a lot of mass market stores for good reason. But if you know the tickets well and you know the game well and you're playing with other people that know it, this game can also be played extremely cutthroat. Memorizing the tickets, knowing just at the 1 or 2 placements where somebody might be going, blocking them for that. The game can be played at all different levels. Very casual, all the way up to super cutthroat if you're playing with very experienced players, and I like that. I also like that there are a gazillion expansions for this. There's maps from all over the world, and all these change the rules of the game so the game never gets stale. I don't think the game gets stale anyways, but it never will with all these expansions. Plus there's a lot of these little small box games that only take about 15, 20 minutes to play that you can introduce people that don't even play games to these to see if they like it, and if so, then you can play the regular Ticket to Ride. A lot of times I'm asked when people find out that I have a YouTube show about games, they're like, oh, what game should I get? This is the first thing I always tell them. Hey, if you play Ticket to Ride, check that one out. Or someone's like, what's the one game that everyone should own these days? It really is Ticket to Ride. It plays great with 2 players as well, all the way up to 5 players. And it's the reason why it's the number 1 here. Well, I hope this helped you learn a little bit more about which games are at the World Series of Board Gaming in Vegas, and also sort of my preferences as to which ones are, how much I like some of these and why. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games by helping you find the next one you love. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and they'll be launching the 4.5 Kickstarter this July, which will introduce the new Galactic Minecraft Game Topper, as well as new miniature game terrain packs, leg kit options, dining covers, accessories, and amazing package deals. Game Toppers will be at the Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio, June 19th to 23rd at booth C2119, where some of these new items will be demoed, so stop by there or check them out at GameToppersLLC.com.